Greetings, I'm Professor K, and welcome to your third and final installment in this video tutorial series on how we go about capturing the flag for the CTF called Lampiao. At the end of video 2 in this video series, we left off with the discovery of what the current version of Ubuntu was running on our target. Now the question is, how do we go about finding an exploit that we can use against this current version of Linux running on our target machine? So to find out if there is some type of privilege escalation exploit that we can run against this version of Ubuntu, we have a utility at our disposal called the Linux Privilege Escalation Auditing Tool, or LES for short. Now we can get this for free from the GitHub site, and that's what we're going to do next. But this is going to take a little manipulating, so do try to follow along as closely as you can with this video and the instruction within the lab file. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get ourselves a universal writable directory so that we can download this script and run it. Now to do this, we can use the temp folder on the target. So I'm going to do a cd space /tmp, and that's going to put us into the temp folder. Now the next thing we have to do is pull down this script, this utility called LES, from the GitHub site, and to do that we're going to use the wget command. Now this is not going to provide us with the actual exploit, it's going to provide us with what available exploits we can use to try to gain an escalated privilege access to this machine, or in other words, gain root access. So let's go ahead and pull down this utility. And now we pulled it down, and you can get this link from within inside of the lab file itself. All you have to do is just copy it. You can paste it into the command prompt here for your MetaPredator session with the target. So the next thing we can do is an ls, and we can see what's inside of the temp directory. And we have something called ls or les.sh. That's the script we need to run, but right now it's not executable, so we have to change the permissions on this particular script. Now to do this, we can do a change mod and change the permissions to give everyone access to execute this current script that we just downloaded. So I'm going to type in chmod space the plus small letter x space the name of the script file that we want to make executable. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. It comes back to the prompt letting me know if that command completed successfully. We're now ready to run this script, and we run it just like any other script that we need to run inside of a Linux box. So you just type in // and that just tells it that, hey, look inside of the root folder we're currently in and find the executable called les.sh. Now the script runs. So once the script executes, it goes up and it determines which version of kernel and Ubuntu this machine is currently running, and then it comes back and it's going to give you a list of all available exploits that are known for this particular version of Ubuntu. Now if you don't know which exploit to use, you're going to have to go to the internet and you're going to have to do some research and look at these exploits and see exactly what it is they do. My research tells me that the exploit that is called Dirty Cow 2 is the one we need to be looking at. Dirty Cow 2 is what's going to provide us with that privilege escalation that we need to gain root access to this target. So again, you're going to want to follow along very closely because we're going to have to go out, we're going to get this exploit, we're going to copy it over to our Kali machine, we're then going to perform a copy over to our target machine, save it to the temp directory where we shall compile it and then we shall run it. So do follow along with the lab file and follow along closely in this video. So let's go ahead and minimize our current terminal and let's open up a new terminal. Now remember that I need to be working inside of my work folder, so that's where we're going to be headed here in just a moment. So I'm going to do a cd and I'm going to hit enter. So this is where I want everything to be compiled inside of this folder. I want everything located in one central place so I don't have to hunt around and look for things on my Kali machine. This Dirty Cow 2 is a known workable exploit that does a very good job of doing privilege escalation. This is where you can go to get the exploit. You see? So you get everything in here. Everything is available for you. And all you got to do is just copy, open up a browser, and go get it. That's all you have to do. Right? Now, if the actual path has changed, well, then you're going to have to do some hunting and get the correct path, because it's not always going to be correct for you. So you're going to have to perhaps hunt and peck and find where this particular exploit here called 40847.cpp or Dirty Cow 2 is actually located at exploit-db.com, because they do change the path. Let's see how that works. Let's go ahead and minimize this one more time. Let's bring up a browser. So one thing you can do is you can go into Google and you can just type in Dirty Cow 2 and you can find where it's actually located at the exploit-db.com site. Now it's not download. This is what I had to change. It's actually been renamed to something called exploits. So what it used to be called downloads is now called exploits. So that's just something that you're going to have to deal with when you're looking for these exploits. Paths do change. So if it happens to you that it can't find the exploit, just go into Google and find it. It's there somewhere. Okay, so now we have the exploit and we need to download it. Okay, so here we go. So let's go ahead and download it. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. And so now that the file has downloaded, let's just go ahead and open up the download folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this over to a folder on our desktop. That is my working folder. To do this, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to select Move To. I'm now going to select where I want this to be moved to. So I'm going to go to my desktop and there's my Lampiao folder. I'm going to select my Lampiao folder. I'm now going to click on the select button. And now we'll go back to my desktop. I'll open up my Lampiao folder and there it is. Let's go ahead and minimize our browser. Now the next thing we need to do is go ahead and start up a small HTTP simple server so that we can deliver this executable on over to our target machine. And this is all the script is. It just says Python space dash small letter M simple HTTP server space 80. Now all of this is case sensitive. So where you see the capital letters is where they have to be when you type in the syntax. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Now it tells me that this small simple HTTP server is currently open and it's listing on port 80. Let's now go back to the target. And from the target, we're going to copy over that exploit that we just saved to my working directory. So we're going to pull it over from that simple HTTP server over to the target's temp directory. So I'm using the wget command. This is the IP address of my Kali. Your IP address for your Kali is going to be different. And I'm just telling it, go find that simple HTTP server, and which is currently listening. And if you find it, it's going to direct you over to the folder where that exploit is currently sitting. Alright, let's go ahead and execute. And it comes back letting me know that it copied over that exploit to the temp folder of my target machine. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to compile the exploit. Let's see how we do that. So the question you're going to have is, well, where did he get the code to compile the exploit? Well, let's go back over to the website and you'll see that it's right here. That's the code that we have to use. Clear that up for you a little bit. This is the code that we have to use to compile the exploit so that we can execute it. Once we have compiled the exploit, made it an executable, then we can run it with this command and we should have root access. Let's see if it works. Go ahead and minimize our browser. Let's go back on over to our target machine and I'm going to right click in here. I'm taking all of this from my lab file, right? So if you fat finger any of these commands, it's never going to work. So all these commands that I'm showing you have just been copied from the lab file. So make sure that if you don't know how to type, or if you type as like I do, not very well, then you're going to do a copy and paste from the lab file and save yourself a whole lot of grief and aggravation. Let's go ahead and compile. Give it a minute. And it comes back to the prompt letting you know that that exploit has been compiled successfully. Now all we got to do is just run that command to launch the exploit. So I've copied and pasted this from my lab file as well. And look what we have. We have root access. So let's do an ls, and you'll see that there is a flag.txt file there. Let's go ahead and cat that out. Go ahead and hit enter, and there's your flag. So we have successfully captured the flag on this particular CTF, and we got to see a couple of things that are of major interest. One was the LES utility that was able to determine which exploits could be ran against the target's version of Linux. That was very cool. Now the other thing we got to do here was we got to download an exploit and then compile it. You got to see how we got to run the simple HTTP server from our Kali machine and use that as a server running HTTP so that we could deliver the exploit to the target. Now some of these things just don't change. A lot of these things that you're going to see are going to be repeated time and time again. How do we get the exploit uploaded to the target? Well, we can run a simple HTTP server. How do we get an exploit? Well, it depends. We got utilities out there that will tell us what exploits we can run against a machine, if there are any exploits available at all. So I kind of simplified the whole process for this particular CTF, but you have some good takeaways here. And so you want to make note of how I got that exploit, how I compiled it, and how I delivered it. Okay, so that's going to conclude this video series on how we go about capturing the flag for the CTF Lampiao. So if you have any questions or you have any concerns about any of the information you were shown in this 3-part video series, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact your instructor, and I'll see you in my next Capture the Flag.